Hello everyone, my name is Rory Neary and I am going to give you a demonstration of how to install the Crisis Communications app. This has been put together at quite short notice in response to the coronavirus outbreak that we're all experiencing, some in greater degrees than others, and I can't take any credit for this. I know that the PowerApps are involved, and obviously Microsoft were heavily involved in this. So I'm going to talk you through the instructions about how to use it. So I came across this morning when Ryan Cunningham announced it on Twitter, and we can see the feed here. The reason I make a point about it is that if you go to aka.ms crisiscommsapp, then you'll start to go through to the resources that are available to you. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I haven't installed this before, but that's part of the joy of doing this. What I'm going to do is going to just literally give you a screenshot of the things that you can do with the app. So it actually does more than this, as you can see. But first of all, it shows you that you can share the status, your status within the organization, where you're out of office, working from home, those sorts of things. But there are a host of other things, including company news and various links that may be relevant to your organization. So this is going to be as much of an experience for me as it is for you. So I'm now going to come off this, and I'm going to go on to aka.ms, the Crisis Comms app. And we're going to take a look through here. Now, I'm not going to go into detail as in going all the way down this. So the first thing is that employees can report their work status, but admins can push news and updates specific to their organization. And there's also this idea of having an RSS feed. Now, I believe they will be working on this app as time goes on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go straight through to the full instructions of how you can implement the Crisis Communication app. So we can see that here. Now what I'll do is I will take this lot off screen and I will actually just walk through this as an exercise itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just, this is for everyone. So this is going to be, I'm going to create my own Office 365 tenant. So the only thing that you need to be able to do this is an internet connection, and that's it. So we're going to do the whole thing. So here we go. So I'm going to move this off screen first, and then move that down there, and then I'm going to go onto a new tab. Now I need to move into incognito mode because I don't want any authentication issues. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm just going to Google this. I'm going to type in E3 Microsoft E3 trial. It says trial, but it should say trial. And I'm going to click on Office 365 E3, and I'm going to go over to, I'm going to switch to English, and then I'm going to go on to a free trial here. So I mean, you can actually do smaller licenses than this, but this is a trial anyway. Many people watching this can just skip straight ahead until when I actually start doing this, but I'm going to do this. So free trial. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I will create my own tenant. So I'm going to create a new account, and it's trying to sign me out, which is quite interesting because I shouldn't have been signed out anyway. Okay, good. So I'm going to type in my email address. I have to actually put my proper email address here, rory@dataspinners.co.uk. And you do actually need to do these things properly. Create a new account instead. And I'm going to do Rory Neary. You don't actually need to do the business phone number at this point, but you do need to do it shortly. Data Spinners. Company size, put one person, and I'll just put that into the United Kingdom, but it's not that important for this demonstration. I need to put a phone number in here, so I'll just pop that in there, and then I'll go to next. So then this next part is very important. So I'm not sure if the 0 at the front is going to cause me a problem. So I'm going to click send verification code. And what that will do is it will send a notification to my phone. It does it quite quickly. And that's it coming through here. And I need to take that number and it's a one-time only number anyway. So it's 904. 6-digit number there, and I'll just click verify on that. So now I need to be creative and think of my my business name. I'm going to call it COVID-19, but I suspect it'll have been taken up already. COVID-19. Check availability. It won't be a huge surprise if this has been taken yet. So I'll type in COVID-19 app and check availability. Yeah, so so my username I'll end up putting in as Rory at COVID-19 app. Okay. And I'm going to untick the get notifications from Microsoft, and then I'll click sign up. Now it is a pretty quick process when all said and done. Now the only thing you need to be aware of is that it will take an amount of time for different elements of Office 365 to set up. So that might be something like an hour or something like that. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to my own tenant, because otherwise I'll see how long it actually takes. I'm going to go to setup. So in my case, I don't need to do any of these bits here. I'm just going to click continue because I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to use the default domain. Use this domain. I'm going to add some users because it'll just be handy for us to have. I'll type it in as user 1, user 2. Oh, actually, and I'll just pop them in there and there's, just so that we've got some people that we can interact with. Send passwords of new users to my email address. Well, that's fine. And I will add users and assign licenses. So I think what it'll do is it'll assign some E3 licenses to these people here. So I'm going to add users and assign licenses. So well, we'll see what happens next on this. I'm not too concerned about that. So I'll share the credentials later. That's fine. I think that part was just sending some details to people who we wanted to have signed in. And I'm not going to worry about this stage. And I'm now going to submit this. Don't need to do any feedback. Well, that was actually quite good. So I'll click submit. Thanks for your feedback. So just moving as this, I'm going to go to the admin center here. In fact, I don't really need to go to the admin center. I'm going to go to office.com. And that should be good enough. I'll just need to check that this is probably going to try and log me in as myself. Let's just check this. Nope. What I'll need to do is I'll need to go onto incognito to get it all set up correctly. So I'm gone onto Office now, and we should see that we'll actually be able to set it up properly now. So Rory at COVID-19 app.onmicrosoft.com, and we go next, and then put my password in and sign in. So I'm signed in here. In fact, quite a bit of the things that I would have needed are actually set up already. I'm gonna move off this thing here. It's things like email that take a little bit of time to come in, but we've got quite a few things come in already. I'm just going to check that I've actually got PowerApps assigned to me. So it looks like PowerApps is all kind of good to go. I just wanted to make sure that was all nicely set up for me. So let's move on with the show. So what I'm going to do now is move back to the instructions that we've got here about setting this up. So I'm not going to worry about the overview of the app. We have to sign up for PowerApps, which will be fine. We've got the licensing okay for that. You must have a valid SharePoint online license. That's fine. And now you've got to have a public SharePoint site where you can store the for the app. That's fine. And the next thing I'm going to do is download the assets from aka.ms crisis communication solution. So I'm going to just download the assets there, and so those things should come in there, and I am going to click on the zip file, and I should be able to click the download here. And as you can see, you don't actually need to be signed up for this. I think I ought to really create a, let me just see if I can create a folder for this. And it doesn't look like we can. But that's okay. I will just pop it into this folder here. I just need to keep a copy of where I've actually put it. So there's my crisis communication. As you can see, it's quite small, but that's fine. Let's move back now to there. We do have a README file there, but I'm just going to go through the instructions. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a SharePoint site, and the site is I'm going to be really specific about just following exactly through what they've actually asked us to do here. So I am going to go and create a crisis information site. So I'm going to go over to SharePoint, and you can see that they're still working things out, which is interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to my own tenant, which obviously has been prepared for some time. So here we are. I'm going to go into SharePoint, and then I'm going to create a site, and that should be fairly straightforward for me to do. I'm going to go to create site. Here it's going to give me two options, and the site I'm going to create is a team site, so I'm just going to click there. Now I just need to verify the name of the site because I've just I've lost some of my details, so I'll just grab that and I will get my instructions back up. Okay, and so we need to create a site, and it needs to be called crisis information, so let's do that. Crisis information. Okay, let's just check that we've got that exactly right. Crisis information. I need to just check the privacy settings. Public. Anyone in the organization can access the site, and then I'll select a language as well. There's not too much to that in reality. That says private, so there we are. We need to click that to say that it's actually public, and then click next. Now, I don't think I need any additional owners, but you can put them in yourself. It's not necessary. So I'm going to go finish on that. So here we have our empty site. Now, I believe the very first thing that we do is actually we're going to go and bring in a flow from the what it's going to do is create a list, and a list is just a table. It's nothing more than that. So we're going to go to flow.microsoft.com, and I'm just going to click on that, and the idea is that we're going to bring in one of the flows that we I'm just going to call this up because I've lost my my details there. So great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go create here, and then that way, actually I need to go to my flows, I need to go to import. I'll dismiss that. I'll go to import, And this is the bit where we're going to need to reach out and get the zip file. Now in actual fact, I need to just dig out the correct location for my data, because I think I'll actually need to unzip the file itself. So here I can see the zipped package here. Now inside the zipped package there will be other things, I very much suspect. So I'm going to go extract all, and I'm just going to extract that. Now I would normally be a bit more I would normally get into more detail on this, but there's a lot of things in here by the looks of things. So you can actually see there's a Power BI report here, so there's lots of things going on here. So we need to pick the correct one of these. Now looking at that, I can see there's something called deploy SP lists here. So I think that's going to be the thing that we're after. So I'm just going to come off that, and I need to choose the package to import. So I need to go to upload, and I am just going to hit this, and we're going to see what happens. I'm just going to go back to the I'm going to go back to this crisis communications app and just verify that I'm actually doing the correct thing. So I've got deploy SP list. That's the correct one. Fine. So I'm going to go upload and into there and deploy SP lists, and then I'm going to click open on that. And what that will do is it will create the flow for us, which is essentially an automated package that will, as we'll see shortly, will create a list for us. So I'm okay with all these, and it says select during import. So create as new is fine, because we do want to create it as new. And I'm going to go select during import, which means I need to go. I can. In your case, you may need to click create new. In my case, I've already got one of these that I've created, so I can use something I've created previously. And now I can click import, and that will then start to set up the flow. I'm not going to get too much into technical details. I will take a look at it. I've literally never seen it before, but that's what it's going to feel like for you as well. Just believe that we can actually do this. Now, as you can see, it's taken a couple of moments to import the package, but that's quite normal. Okay, so that's actually done that process. It took maybe 30 seconds. I'm going to go to open flow. Now, I very much suspect this is a flow that we only ever need to run once. And so we're going to see all the steps that are needed to make this flow work. I don't think there'll be many things for us to change to make this work. So let's go back to the instructions, and just gonna make them a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. You may need to create a Sharepoint connection. That's what we did. Now, we don't think we need the Bing connections at this point, so don't worry about that. And I'm just going to go on to edit the SharePoint list deployment flow. So we've moved on to the edit piece, and we need to go onto this variable target site for lists. So open the card called variable name. Okay, that's fine. And what we'll need to do is grab the URL to pop in there, but it shouldn't be too hard for us to find. So I'm going to go edit your flow, variable target site for lists. And in fact, because of the nature of this particular thing, we need to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to go up here, and it's not going to work for me first time. So I will need to grab my little piece here, and yours will be different to mine. So I need to basically go and replace that. We're going to need to replace that there. So that's the first thing I've needed to do. And on this variable crisis communication, I can't believe that that possibly needs to change, because that's quite a standard thing here. And then we've got some 8 feature, but I don't think we're going to need to do too much on this. I think we're just going to end up running it. So gone to edit there, and I'm not even going to look inside there. So you can actually see that there's actually going to be a series of lists that will be created. So we'll watch that run. So I'm going to click save on that. And it doesn't generally take a particularly long period of time to change. Now, if your flow does fail, it's almost certainly because you've got the wrong SharePoint site name. Now, and just be careful. Just go to the root of the site, and it's going to be site and then crisis information. So has it saved? It has saved. Now just move back to the instructions here. Now it's done that, run the SharePoint list deployment flow. Go back to the detail and click run from the command bar. Okay, let's do that. So edit your flow. I'm going to go and hit the back to the previous page. And we can see that there's a run option here. I'm going to click run. It's never run before, of course. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click continue. So as we know, because we've only just created the site, there can't be anything in there. So I'm going to click continue and click run the flow. Now, has it actually started? Sometimes you need to kind of click it more than once to kind of just persuade it into action. So I'm just going to point out here that I think the reason for my pause was because I need to click allow on the location. So I'm going to click allow here, and then I think it's going to be slightly less upset than it was before. Yeah. So the flow has started running. So you can actually see the flow is running there. In fact, we can actually jump in if we're feeling keen to just see what it's actually up to and how far through all the processes that it is. I'll see how that gets on. I'm not prepared to wait too long for this. So I'm going to go onto the crisis, back onto the instructions, because that flow is now running. That automated procedure is now running. And so this, it's saying that location services required. That's what we had just now. So I did have to allow that for that to happen. Okay, so it's telling us that we're going to have the following SharePoint lists within the SharePoint site, and I'll show you how you can actually see those things there. You can obviously read through to see the various bits and pieces there. So there's lots of different things that it's created, and it is pretty incredible that they've done that. So let's just check this run history. We can actually see that the flow is completely run. That means that we can go to the crisis information home, and we can actually go to the settings here, and we can go to site contents, and then we can actually see all of the contents of the site. So we should be able to see all of these lists, and they're basically empty at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is move on to the next part of the process, because we need to go into PowerApps and we need to bring the app that they have provided us with. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go on to home. Then I'm going to go on to PowerApps. Sometimes you'll need to type in Power at the top here, and obviously you'll need to have a PowerApps license and so on. So I'm going to click on PowerApps here. That takes us to make.powerapps.com. And what we're going to do is we're going to import an app. Now I'm going to move on to apps here, and we're going to import a Canvas app. So I'm going to click on import a Canvas app, and we need to go back to the same location that we were a few moments ago. So it's wherever you've put your zip file. Now bear in mind, you need to unzip your zip file, and then the file you'll need is a zip file. So you're going to need to click on upload here, and I'll need to just check which one of these apps I'm supposed to be bringing in at this point in time. So it says crisis communication zip. So there we are. Crisis communication zip. So it's this one here. Obviously we need to be quite precise about this because apps aren't flows and so on. This does take a little bit of time. I mean, it does really depend on how complex that the app is. So that hasn't taken too long. So looking at the different elements of it, create as new, that's normal. This is create as new, which is fine. What I will need to do is on this Teams connection, select during import, and also on this users connection, select during import. So anytime it says select during import, you'll need to click it. And if you don't have something already, you'll need to click create new. It'll take you to connections. You'll create the connection, and then you'll be okay. So create the connection. Oh, this is fun because I obviously haven't created this connection before, so I'll have to, I'm definitely going to be doing it the same way as you guys. So what is it looking for? It's looking for a Microsoft Teams connection. So let's see where we need to go to. I'm just going to get rid of some of the things on the screen here. I don't need this here either. And I'm just going to type in, get rid of that. I'm going to type in Teams. Yeah, so we can see there's a Teams connection here. So I'm actually just going to hit the plus on that, and that'll create the connection for me. I'll click create, and that's me done. And I'm now in my actual work tenant. So I'll need to make sure I click the correct one. So it's adding the connection. It's now added the connection, but I did see there was another connection that they wanted. That means I can now select this connection and then save. The next thing I need to do is to select import. Now I do have one of these already. This is a bit mysterious. I don't have one of these already, so I'll have to do create new. So it's Office 365 users. And it's the same thing as we did before. And I'll do new connection, and it'll be Office 365 users, and you can see it there. I'll hit the plus button on that and click create, and it's going to probably offer us a number of these, and I'll click Rory at Data Spinners there, and there we go. That's that one connected, and I will need to go back here and to refresh the list. Yeah, so just bear in mind that if it doesn't come in straight away, make sure you refresh the list. And then I'll click, I had to click to get the right one. I can see Brian Dang's been busy here. Well done, Brian. And I'm now going to click import. So what this will do is it will bring in the app. Now, the thing to bear in mind, this we may need to create connections to data sources and so on as we go. It'd be kind of surprising if we don't, but it's not obvious at the moment because I can't see any elements here to do with SharePoint and so on. So I'm going to refer back to the instructions at this point in time. So it says update the SharePoint connections. So I think we'll need to be a little bit careful on this because yeah, we'll just have to see how this works. You know, if the app gets upset with us, then we'll have to persuade it into action. So it's saying that it's all the resources were successfully imported, which is great. And now I can go to open app. So this will open a studio version of the app where we can make edits to the app, which we may need to do. Well, this is a little bit upsetting because it can't be found in the tenant. So, well, this isn't such a bad thing because everyone's going to have problems when they start setting these things up. So let's just see what we have here. Now, this is a bit mysterious because it's really saying that I don't have any files. So this could be a kind of a bit of a localized issue, and it's worth me just sort of trying to work through this because it's definitely saying it's happy. And just looking up there, in fact, you can see here that this is the joy of working in this way. Is actually pushed the app into the incorrect tenant, which you shouldn't have an issue with. So I'm going to just sign out of that. I'm actually going to bring the app in again. So I'm going to sign in there. And I will bring in the app again. I think that probably what is the reason why I had to set up so many connections and so on. I think it's important in terms of this demo that I'm actually showing you, the mistakes as much as the successes. So I'm back in make.powerapps.com, and I'm going to go down to apps, and I'm going to keep my eye top right here, because just need to make sure, it keeps signing me in and out of this. And this is why actually when you go incognito, it can be a much better idea. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that, because I know I'm going to get authentication things going on. So I'm going to go onto here and I'll do that. Okay, so now I'm in my tenant, and I've worked out all the authentication issues. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go import. I am going to import the Canvas app again, because I need to make sure it's actually going to work correctly. I need to click upload. I need to navigate to this. It was the crisis communication. Click the open on there, and then we'll need to go down to, we'll need to do that piece again where I make sure I've got all the right connections and so on. But look, there is no harm in doing this twice anyway. So here we go. So that's definitely creators new, that's fine. Microsoft Teams connection. It looks like I haven't, I have done that one, and I'll click save on that. And then the users connection, it did surprise me that we didn't have that, so I'm going to click save on that. So we're ready to go, and I'm going to click import. So we did find that it was actually quite a quick import process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up the instructions again, and then that's fine. So here we go. Moving down, we did the flow, then we created the lists, which is great, and now we need to go down to, we're going to need to do, in theory, we're going to need to go through and update SharePoint connections, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm on the app. It's telling me that it's done that, in which case the problem we had before, it was because it was sending me to the wrong tenant. So let's hope that this isn't going to be an issue for us. Okay, well, it's certainly doing it in my site, which is good, and we should be able to see that we've got, okay, good, excellent. So I'll need to do a sign in on here. You always need to make sure you're fully signed into all your bits and pieces, and then once that's the case, then I can click allow on that. And I've got another location services thing top left here, so it looks like it's going to have to wait a moment, and then when it's less upset, there we are. Okay, so I need to click allow on that, then click skip on there, and well, this is interesting actually, because it's a little bit empty at this point in its life. So I think the issue is that it's not connected to a data source at this point in time. So I'm going to go view data sources, and this is the bit where we need to get this absolutely right. So this will be, this part of the process will definitely be a little bit tricky. Go back to the app list, select more commands. Okay, great. Update the SharePoint connectors. So I did actually skip over this. I probably shouldn't have done. So I'm going to do file and then go close, and then going to go onto the app itself. In fact, I'm going to go there from, let me just see, let's just verify where they want us to go. Go back to the apps list. Okay, good. So there's PowerApps. I'm going to click on this here, and we should be able to find that. There's my crisis communication, and it says click on the ellipses here, and we should be able to get to there. Okay, good. Let's just verify where they want us to go. In fact, they just literally want us to actually to go and do exactly what I just did. Okay, so what I'll do in that case is I will go to crisis communication, and I'm going to click the edit option here. I'm not expecting any pop-ups this time around because we did it earlier on, so that should just start loading this up. So the bit that well, it is actually quite confusing because I'm not quite getting exactly the same screens here. So navigate to the data sources on the left pane, remove the existing SharePoint lists inside of the app because they don't put, okay, right, that makes a lot of sense in that case. And what we're going to do, so we're just going to kill all these, and then we will, and then we'll put them back in. Perfect. Okay, good. So, I'll click allow on that. So I think the reason why this wasn't sort of rendering correctly was quite normal, and it's because it's connected to, in fact, the list it was trying to connect to, it doesn't have a connection for at all. So I'm just going to verify how they want me to do this. So yeah, you need to go to data sources. So over to view data sources, and then these are the ones that we're going to get rid of. So I'm going to remove, oops, there's all my SharePoint list, and then remove. In fact, you can see all the errors starting to appear, which is fine. And remove, that's great. And so now what we need to do is we need to actually add those data sources. So what we need to do is add those in. So the way to get those in is by typing SharePoint in the at the top here, and we're going to click on SharePoint. And what this is going to do now, it's going to ask us, well, firstly we're going to have to add the connection. But then you can see right here is that we need to tell it the SharePoint site that that we're interested in. Now, if it doesn't appear at the bottom, then what you'll need to do is you'll actually need to go to the actual SharePoint site that you created. So if I go to SharePoint here, if you've got a lot of sites, it can be tricky to get to. Then I just did a search at the top, and I was able to actually find it. So I'll type in crisis. And if I just go onto sites here, we should be able to find the crisis communication. And I'm just going to click on that one there because I want to show you that what you can do is you can actually pick it from the top here. You can pick it up and you can go back to over here and you can actually type it. You can just put it in here. But as it turns out, it already knows that we've got the correct crisis information thing here. So I can click on there. That means we've connected to the site. We have to tell it the lists that we want to connect to, and that's as simple as just clicking the checkboxes here. As I say, I've actually never made this app before. I'm just following on from the instructions. So I'm just kind of hoping that it's all going to work beautifully, which I'm sure it will do. You can see it's not quite brought the connections in yet. It may just, in fact, you can see that we've still got errors at the top, which is a bit of a concern. So there may be more steps that we need to take in order to make this work nicely. So let's not worry too much about that at this point. So we've done that correctly. We've added these in, and well, they said copy and paste the SharePoint site there, which is what I demonstrated. Then we selected all the SharePoint lists and libraries and select connect, which is fine. And then it says update the request help flow, and then this flow, it says this flow will send an adaptive card to a central team requesting help. So it's almost like we've got to, well, it says save and publish the app. I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest, because the app has got errors noted on it. It says only 2, which but I just hope they aren't too important. So these are warnings. So warnings are not terminal. So let's not worry too much about those warnings. So they're to do with like if you've got more than 500 of something, then it starts to become a problem. So yeah, I won't get into that. So I'm going to go file, save. I'm going to just type in demo here and then click save. As I say, and I am going to publish. Let's just check whether they want us to publish it. Publish it means that it becomes available to the organisation and so on. So it'll probably say who do you want to actually share this with. In fact, it hasn't said that yet, but now we can share it. So In theory, if you're actually doing this, the chances are you're going to want to share it with your whole organization, but it could be Active Directory groups or whatever it was, whatever. So if you want to share it with your whole business, then you can just type in everyone, and then it'll actually will actually do that. So at that point, you can actually just click share, and that is shared with everyone in the organization. Obviously, the people in the organization have to have access to the SharePoint list, but remember that we did share the site with everyone right at the start, so just be careful with that. So I'm now just going to press cancel because that's all good. I'm going to move on with the rest of the exercise. So I'm just wondering how much more of this is. So let's just roll down. So we've got update the request help flow. Okay, fine. This flow will send an adaptive card to a central team requesting help. Okay, fine. So we'll do that. So once we've done that flow, and as I say, I've not seen it before, we'll actually need to create a team, by the way, and grab some bits and pieces on there. So what I ended up doing is I've moved on to the tenant that I set up with you at the start. So we'll also, so we're going to take different details from there, and you'll see me doing that. So hopefully that'll make it a bit easier. There is an admin app. It should be pretty easy to set up, similar to what we did earlier on. That's fine. So we'll do a bit of setting up the connections, and that'll be no problem at all. We'll need to create some initial content for the app, so we'll start using it properly, and then that should start to make things actually hang together. I think what I'll do in between is I'll actually make like an admin user, so it's a bit more obvious who's doing what. And yeah, so we'll need to create an Azure Active Directory group. I'm not quite sure how they're using it, because there's lots of ways in which you can use an Azure Active Directory group. They're pretty easy to set up though. So emergency contacts, because there'll be contacts within your organization that you may want to for people to be able to contact. We can set up some initial company news. We'll just see how that works within the app. It'll be fine. And there's some links within the app as well. So this is, once again, this is using the app. There's a bit of test and share the app, but that's fine. And there's a notification flow. You can see we're getting further on down the list here. I'm not expecting that to be particularly difficult. It's actually a flow. So we'll see how that works. So the purpose of this flow is actually to send a notification into someone's app itself. I've not used it very much before, so it's going to be actually quite interesting to see how this works. And I believe this is the element of the functionality that Microsoft have actually made free for the duration of the this coronavirus outbreak. So we'll carry on down there. And so you'll see we'll need to grab our app IDs and so on, but that'll be fine because we'll do that together. So we carry on down there. So we can edit the news notification flow. So there's actually a SharePoint list. And then it looks like when an item is added into the SharePoint list, then that's hopefully going to activate our flow. This is going to be good to go through. And then there's a Power BI report which monitors office absences. That will also be interesting to go through, because we'll need to navigate properly to the Power BI report to see where they are in the world, and so that'll be useful. I may see if I can get some people elsewhere in the world to run the app for me. So we'll need to get different bits and pieces that we can actually add into that we'll need to add in here, so to make it work. But I'm not expecting it to be outrageously difficult. It certainly would be tricky if you just followed through. So this is, I think looking at this, it's just a single table that they're bringing in, so it's pretty straightforward bringing in a single table. Then there's a final piece where we integrate this app into Teams, and there's and what they're doing is that the important part here is they're actually integrating it on the left hand panel here. So there's, I'm going to say a trick, but there's a way in which you do that. So I'll just move down there. So there's a particular technique for doing that. It's kind of relatively advanced. So there's a lot of learning in here. So we'll just run through that. Yeah, and then you add the pinned app, and then there's a bit here. This is the bit we've already actually created. Create a central crisis management team. So it's actually we'll have created that further earlier on in the process when we do a flow. And what they do in there is they also add in the Power BI report into that area. So that's looking backwards, looking forwards, and looking backwards. We have looking going back to the top. We create a site. We actually created a tenant. We create a flow. We create all the SharePoint lists. Then we added created an app. And then we are pretty sure we may well, but yeah. So we're now about to do some more work. So we've got to do this flow. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a team. So let's go for it then. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go back to the home. I quite like going on to home, and we need to go to Power Automate. If it's not showing, you need to just type in Power at the top. And so here we are in Power Automate. You need to go to My Flows, and then you need to go to Import. And then we'll need to go and find the file that we can import. So I'll need to have a little dig around for that. I need to go to Upload, and I think I just need to verify the one that we're actually trying to pull out on this one here. So okay. In fact, we're going to have to create a team first. So we might as well do that. So let's go and create the team, because in order to run the flow, we need to actually create the team. So let's go back to Office, and there's Teams there. I will click on Teams, and I'm going to create a new team, and I'm going to call it Crisis Admin Team, or Crisis Admin. Let's just see how they name it here. So Crisis Management. I'll call it Crisis Management Team. So good. On the Teams, it's loading. I always use the web app, and I want to click on Teams here. There's a few things that, because I've not used Teams on this tenant before, I need to create a team. So here we are, create a team, and I'm going to create it. I'm going to create this one from scratch. Let's just see. Actually, I'm just going to right click on this, open a new tab, and then just check what sort of team that we're actually going to create. I don't actually think this is too significant, so I'm definitely going to build it from scratch anyway, so that's fine. So I'm actually going to make it it's going to be a private team, so I just need to be a teeny bit careful with that. I'll do it as a private team, because this is the admin team, so we don't want that to be a public team. So I'm going to click it as a private team. Crisis, I'll call it Central Crisis Administration, and I'll just click Create on that. It doesn't actually take very long for the team to be created. Just jump down onto the instructions here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in into there. Well, eventually we'll add in a Power BI report, but initially we'll just add in the administration app that we created earlier on. So whilst that's whizzing away, I'm just going to go on to, actually it's done it now. That's fine. Okay, good. Start adding people into it. I'm going to skip that for the moment. What I might do is I don't even know if this is part of the session, but I'm going to create an Azure Active Directory group to see if we can actually do that. So portal.azure.com, and go in there. Maybe later. And I need to go to Active Directory. Now, as I say, I've never used this before, or rather this version of it. Active Directory. There we are, Azure Active Directory. and I need to go to groups, and I am going to create a new group. This is interesting. I think this was a kind of out of the box group, but I'm going to create a new group anyway, and it's going to be a security group, Central Crisis. I'll call it Central GRP Central Crisis Admin. Let's just do that. So I'm going to create that. It doesn't normally take very long to create. So there's my group there. I'm going to add some members into it. It won't have any members obviously at the moment. I'm going to add members. So I'm going to I'll add myself. So I'll type in Rory. Yeah, add myself in there, and I'll type in user 1 as an admin as well. That would mean that only user 2 is my is not in the team. Poor user 2. So what we can see is we've got the members there, and we should be able to see that the owner is myself. No owners have been found. Well, that's quite interesting. So I better add myself, because that would be interesting if we didn't have an owner. So I'll just add that in there. That means we've got an owner, and I could obviously have more than one owner, and they would be able to add more members in. So I'm going to come back off there. I'm going to go onto Microsoft Teams. I'm going to skip this piece here where actually I shouldn't have skipped that, but we can do that. Let's do that now. So I'm going to manage team. And I'm going to do add member, and I'm going to type in GRP. Now it may not be ready yet. Well, you can see that it is actually ready, and so I can add that team. So anyone in those one member already exists in this team. Okay, close. That's fine. So that means that we can see all the people that are able to actually access this group, which is useful. But actually, this group has nothing in it so far. So I'm just going to go on to here. I need to go onto one of the channels here, and then I'm going to hit the plus, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to add in a Power App. So this is good because there's Power Apps there. Good, and what I want to do is I want to add that in there, and I should be able to pick the admin app. Now that's crisis communication. Now I'm a bit concerned with that, because it makes me feel as if I didn't actually add the crisis communication app. I don't want to put this one in there, because this is not the administration app. So I'm just going to go and, because I was working off 2 tenants, it may be that I didn't actually create that one. So as it turns out, I've been a bit keen, and I've got ahead of the game because I've read through the instructions already. So we only needed this because we needed elements to do with the team itself. And so we're going to jump onto the instructions, because the purpose of this was so that we could actually get elements of the team, so we could put it into the flow. And so what we needed to do was we needed to go onto here, and we need to go to there. We need to get a link to the team. So this is my central administration team, and I need to get a link to the team. So there is my link to the team. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to pop it into Notepad so that we can actually see it a little bit more easily. So there's Notepad. And it's off the screen at the moment. Now it's on the screen because there are certain elements of this that we want to make use of. Basically, there's an awful lot of GUIDs in here. So you can see a group ID, you can see a tenant ID there. I think the group ID is the thing that we'll actually need, and just be careful. It's this bit here. They're always 36 characters long. That's the bit that we'll need. We might need the tenant ID, but I'm not too sure about that. So looking on the flow, so you can see here there's an example of this. It said extract the channel ID, which is everything except. Okay, well that's interesting because I haven't created a channel yet. So let me just go on to there, go on to the teams, and in fact it's this general thing here. So get a link to the channel. So that was an easy mistake to make. So let's just go on to here, and I'll paste that in there, and you can actually see that the GUID has actually changed. So you can see the channel here is slightly strange looking. Now I'm a little bit concerned about where the bit that I actually pick. I suspect it's actually after the percentage, because percentage usually means a different character. So I suspect it will be this element here. So so looking on that, so get a link to the channel, and then channel ID. It's going to be extract everything after HTTPS channel / and before general. Okay, fine. So let's go on to there. Okay, so you can see here that it's the 19% and I don't think it has. Okay, good. So I'm going to go onto the onto Notepad, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to get rid of that, delete that, and I'm going to get rid of this, delete that. Okay, so this is the GUID, rather the code that we need for later on. So as it turned out, we don't actually need to create a new flow, because the flow is actually part of the Power App that we brought in. So we don't need to go new and import and all this sort of thing. All we need to do is to go onto crisis communication request, and we need to edit that. So I'm going to click on the edit button, and that's where we're going to take elements from earlier on. So what we need to do is we need to go onto the team ID. So essentially we've got our Power App will communicate with the team. Simple as that. So what we do is we go to team ID, and we need to add in the team ID that we picked up. Now I will just jump onto the crisis communication app element here. So we need to make sure that we get our team ID. So extract the team ID, which is everything after group ID before tenant ID. So let's just check that out. So I'm going to have to go to the channel itself, and I'm going to do get a link to the channel. I'm going to do that again. Actually, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go onto my Notepad. I'm going to pop that in there, because I don't think that that's everything I need. It's a channel, but I think it's the group ID. Yeah, it's almost certainly the group ID that I need here. So I'm going to grab the group ID, but not the tenant ID, and I'm going to go back to this flow here, and that will be my team ID. And we'll just check that it's actually the correct thing here. So it is a bit. So team ID was before group ID. After group ID, yeah, that's fine. So that's perfect. Then I need to get the channel ID, which I extracted earlier on. So back onto Notepad, and it's this 19% thing that I've got here. So all the way up here, but then stopping before the /. Go on to the figure here, and just paste that in there. So just check that there's actually no issues there. Just going to check that there's nothing going on with the user ID. Well, actually that gets pulled in correctly, and the comments get pulled in correctly. And just looking at the profile, that's fine. And then this post into your adaptive card, it actually uses the team and the channel ID and so on. So the theory goes that actually, I'm not so sure if this is actually, I'm going to test this. In fact, no, I'm not going to test it. I'm going to save it. And I wouldn't actually be able to test it. You'd have to, in fact, would you be able to test it? You might be able to test it. I'll see if I can test it just for fun. I'll perform the trigger action test. Let's see if it, not all of them you can test successfully. So user ID, well, I'll actually do Rory.Neary. Rory at, oh, actually, I don't even know the name of this thing here. No, I'm not going to bother. I'm actually going to do, we'll do that as part of the app itself. So so we need to carry, I'm going to save that, and then that part of it is done. I'm not doing any testing at the moment. I'm just going to assume they've done an amazing job, which I'm sure they have. It's not been run yet, which is fine, and we'll jump back to the to continuing with this. So we can see that we've done the elements here, and so we've done this part of the process. So now what they're asking us to do is import and set up the admin app, and this is pretty straightforward. It's not really an awful lot different to what we did earlier on. So we're starting to pull all the elements together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Office, and I'm going to go to PowerApps, which has disappeared. So I'm just going to type in PowerApps and then PowerApps. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, I go to, you actually have to go to, believe it or not, you have to go to apps and then import. So you can go to import, and this is the bit where we're going to go and get the administration app together. So you can see the admin app there. I'm kind of winging this at the moment, but if it's not the admin app, I'll be very surprised. So I'm going to click on that and click open on there. And so any connections that are required, it's gonna tell us about it in a moment. So it's usually pretty straightforward, as we saw before. So it just says create as new, which is fine, and I'm going to click import on that. So once this is actually imported, what we'll have to do is the same as before. We'll have to delete the SharePoint lists and put them back in again. But as we saw before, what you'll find this time round is it'll be a bit more straightforward. So I'm going to go to Open App in there. And it's now asking us if we are okay for us to use these various permissions and so on. I'm going to click Allow on that, which means that we'll be in a position to actually edit this and get it connected and wired up to the SharePoint lists. And so as before, we'll go to View, Data Sources, we'll remove the data sources that are there, and then we're going to put the data sources back in for our SharePoint list. So I'll just wait for that to finish. So we're back in again. I'm going to click skip on that, and I'll go to View, Data Sources, and these are the elements that we need to remove. So I'm just going to go Remove and remove all of those. Okay, so they're removed, and now of course we need to put those back in again, because if you actually look on the up at the top here, all the formulas have been destroyed because of that. So what we'll do is we'll go into data sources, and what we'll find is I'm going to type in Sharepoint here, and I'm going to click on Sharepoint. Now this time round, you're almost certainly going to be offered oh no, you're not going to be offered the one that we need. So what we'll need to do is we need to go on to we need to go back to Office, and we will go on to SharePoint, because we need to get the correct URL for this. So we need to go. I need to remember what this is actually, which one it is. I think it is going to be this. And what I can do is I can just check. I can just check inside it to see if this is actually the correct one, because obviously it needs to have all of the lists and so on. In fact, almost certainly the other way of checking it is that if I just pop this in, if the lists appear, then it must be the right one. So I'm just going to paste this in here and then click connect. And if the lists appear, then I must have chosen the right one, which is fine. I'm just going to click OK to all of these. I'm almost certain it's every single one of these. So I'm just going to go back to the instructions here. This is the admin app here. I mean, if you actually selected more than you need, it wouldn't actually be a problem at all. So just moving back there, I'm okay on that, and I'm going to click connect. And it's bringing those things in. In fact, you can actually see the number of formulas that are incorrect are actually reducing all the time, which is rather nice. Now down to 5. And that probably is about as low as we're going to get. So you've got delegation warnings. That just means that, and this won't be an app that will be subject to. Ultimately, you can only get 10, 20 things on a screen. So the idea that this one will have been optimized so that this won't be a problem. So we've brought in the app itself. Let's just verify that we've actually got to the bottom of the instructions for that. It's almost, yeah, okay. And it then says save and publish the app, which is great. So I'm going to go on to there. This is the communications admin. I'm going to go file, save, and then it's going to ask us to publish this. Now, obviously, when we publish it, we will publish this version, and it's a bit belt and braces, but I'm actually going to share it with all the with that group admin that I set up earlier. So GRP crisis admin, and this is interesting. It allows you to do that as a co-owner. I wasn't expecting that. Co just means that they can actually edit the app itself, but in actual fact they don't need to do that. So I'm going to click share on that, and we've now completed that element of the process. So we are actually getting quite a way through this. So I'm going to come off this because this is where we are in the instructions. So it's now saying you've successfully imported both the crisis communication app and its admin app. You can start creating the initial content. To start, open up the crisis communication admin app. Okay, let's do that then. So I'm going to go on to Office. I do bounce into PowerApps in this way. I don't know, it's just habit. So we can go on to the apps here. I suspect it'll be on there anyway. And you can see the administration app, and if I hit the 3 dots once it sort of wakes up, then I'll actually be able to hit the play button. So this is my administration app here. So the purpose of this element of here is to now for us to start populating some data. Well, this is interesting because they've actually optimized this for mobile and so on. Let's see what happens when you actually change the size. Don't do that. Okay. I think what they may have done is they may have done this so that it changes shape based on the size of the device. I think that's amazingly clever. Okay, so let's move back to the instructions, and so what we need to do is they're asking us to set up key parameters. So you need to go to the admin settings on that, and I'm just going to do this. I've not done this before, so we'll just have to work through this together and just be sensible about the whole thing. So there's the admin settings. Click on the admin settings. Okay, admin email. I'm going to do, oh, I don't even know what my email address is. Let's just see it in there. See if I can actually pick that. Let's go to my office profile because I need to actually grab that. I say I'm not too concerned about sharing any of this because it's not a real email address, or not. It's only been used for the purposes of this exercise anyway. So I'm just going to hit the back button. Yeah. So I obviously came off the app, which wasn't too helpful. So it's going to fire up again. Pretty quick, all said and done. So there's your admin settings, admin email, logo URL. I don't know. Let's see if we can find a Microsoft logo. Let's just see if we can do that. And then we'll go to images. And then we'll just go to maybe that one there. And let's just see if it's actually copy image address, and then go back and see what that looks like. It might work, it might not. AD group name. Okay, so this is the bit where earlier on we set up an Active Directory group, and I'm calling it this. So I'm going to grab that and pop that in there. We want the ID of the group. That's pretty easy to find. In fact, the easiest way to find it, you can find it lots of places, but it's actually up the top here anyway. So we can go down here and pop that in there. Team channel name. Well, we did this earlier on, so I'm going to go onto that notepad thing. So we've got the. I'll have to do the channel. This is the channel ID, I believe, and I'll need to get the channel name. I think it might be general. So let's just have a look at Teams. it's just called general, this one here. So I'm just going to go onto there and pop that in there. General. Okay, good. App URL. Now, which I think they may be referring to I'm actually going to, in fact, this is interesting here because I think this makes certain things in the app light up, and that's why when we first started using the app, it literally did nothing at all. So I'm just going to basically click all of these, turn them on, and we're just going to see what happens. And the notification method, let's just do Teams and let's go push notification. And I do need to put in the app URL, but I want to make sure that I'm actually doing the correct one. So I'm going to go into crisis communication. So we can see different things. The location of the app, so that the notify users on crisis communication flows can redirect after selecting read more. So I don't think it's the location of this app. I think it's actually the location of the users app. So I'm just going to keep going down here. So we've done the Active Directory group piece already. They're saying set up emergency contact. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go onto the apps in this area here, and I'm going to go onto the crisis communication, and I'm going to go onto details, and I am pretty sure that this is what we actually need to use in this case. So I'm just going to go onto here. That says app URL. Okay, fine. So actually what they want is the app URL here. So there we are. I think that's what they're doing. I think maybe it's part of the email or something like that. Government RSS feed is not something that I'm in a position to add in, but it would be certainly interesting to look at. So I'm just about to press save. And I'm just going to whiz down here. I think I'm okay at this point because I think some of these are on other elements of that. So what that will have done is it will have saved things to the SharePoint list. So if I go to company contacts, I think this is the bit where we put in emergency contacts. Maybe not. So links FAQ. Let's just go back to the instructions here. Set up an emergency contacts, navigate to company contacts, create new contact, etc., etc., etc. Okay, well in that case it is company contacts. So let's just do this as user 1, and I'll just click search. Oh, okay. I haven't set any up yet, so I need to go to create new contact. And I will need to do this as I'll need to kind of find my email address again. So I need to go onto here. I'm actually not going to do myself as the contact. I'm going to do user 1. I'll go to my office profile, and I'm just going to grab this element here. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change it around. Is that a bad idea? It probably is a bad idea, actually. Let's just do myself at the moment. So United Kingdom, business phone 1234, comments none, and so that's one of them set up. Rory Neary. Okay, and then we'll do save on that. Done, and you can start to see they've actually started to light up there. And I'm going to do another create new contact, and I'll do this one will be, it's not that, user 1, and this is going to be user 1, and what's the country going to be? I don't know, USA, that'll do, and business phone of 1234, and then I'll click save on that, and so we can start to see things are actually lighting up here, which is quite cool. So that's great. Now what else do I need to do? I need to now jump back onto the instructions, and we can actually see how this so we've set up the emergency contacts, set up initial company news, and so what we'll do on that is we'll go back to this and we need to go back on the app. Now obviously this app is actually optimized for phones, so that's why things are not necessarily always shown in the place you'd expect it, but I'm not too concerned about that. So I've gone to company news, search news feed. Well, we don't have new post. Okay, title of the new post. Well, it's going to be welcome to your new app. This app is for the purposes of, and I'll just put XYZ on there, and then further links here. Actually, to be fair, they've got links to URLs. I'm going to do World Health Organization coronavirus, and let's just see how that sort of works. And I will just go back to the app itself. In fact, I think you might actually be able to it's all a bit small for me. I'm going to pump it up here, but you can actually go on there and actually you can put World Health Organization. Okay, and we will do I'll just click OK on that, and let's just see if it actually works. I don't know if I can actually do that, so I'm going to click save on that. So welcome to your new app. That's quite nice. In fact, they've done a pretty amazing job, all said and done. So back onto the crisis communications, we've added some news, some set helpful tips, navigate to helpful tips. I'm looking forward to this. So I am going to go back on this, hit the arrow back, and helpful tips. And I'm going to do new tip. So title, let's do wash your hands for, I'm going to say 20 seconds. Resource URL. Let's go to the BBC. bbc.co.uk and coronavirus. And I'm going to go onto there because I know they've got some really good advice on that. So what we can do on there, coronavirus explained. In fact, I'm not interested in that. BBC coronavirus guidance. Good. So how to stay safe. Now this is quite a good one. Yeah, this is perfect. So go on to there, and I'm going to, excuse me, go on there. There's lots of advice on that. So this is a subtitle. Some say to sing happy birthday twice whilst washing. Right, good. And then I'm going to click save on that, and then good. This is subtitle. So I'm going to go back on there. So now back onto the instructions. So we've done quite a lot. I'm quite impressed with this. So now we've just done helpful tips. They've now said set up links. Okay, fine. Well, let's do the same again. I'm going to go to the links piece here. So create a new link. I think in this case, I'm just going to do that coronavirus thing. Coronavirus guidance BBC. We'll do that. And then we'll go save on there. And then we'll go OK on that, and then back. And then we will go back to the instructions. So you can set up FAQs. Well, this will be specific to your organization. So we're going to go on to the FAQs, set up an FAQ. Here's a new FAQ. Title, this is the first FAQ. In fact, travel guidance rank. Okay, this is quite a good idea because some are more important than others. Well, let's just say this is 1. Let's just say this is 10, and this is pre-approval is required by HR for until further notice. Just making that one up there, and then I can click save. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to create new FAQ and title another FAQ, and I'm going to put this one as rank 2, and then just say test 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go to save on that, and we should see. I was expecting that to be further up the list, so that's great. I'm going to click back on there. So we've actually been through, I think, did we do company news? Okay, we did. So we've actually done every part of that app. So we're kind of nearly at the kind of exciting bit. Now that you've successfully set up all the data, you can now test the app to make sure it works. So sign into PowerApps, select apps from the left navigation. So we're actually going to test that the app actually works. And I'm going to take a mini break before I actually do that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to test the app, the app that our users are expected to actually use. So I'm going to go on to apps here, and I'm going to go to crisis communication and press play, and it's a kind of fingers crossed moment because obviously we've set up a load of data and so on already, and initially nothing happened. And I think that when we hit those flags, that meant that certain things actually lit up. So that means that we can go on to emergency contacts, and you can actually see the contacts here. I'm really impressed with this. Company news. Let's go on to company news or read me. Very nice. World Health Organization. Da da da. Oh, this is really good. Brilliant. So what an amazing job they've done. Helpful tips. Wash your hands for 20 seconds, sing happy birthday twice whilst washing, read more, and then you click through to there. How good is that? And so hit the back button here. Did I do helpful tips? I don't know. Let me just check that. Yeah, I've done the helpful tips thing. I'm not sure what happens when we have lots of helpful tips. I imagine they just keep scrolling down. The links piece. Coronavirus guidance. Let me just see what happens if you click here. Oh, it just takes you straight out to it. Okay, that's fine. And hit the back button. And then the FAQs, and we should see that we've got we've got them in the right order now. So I have to say I think this is brilliant. So let others know where you're working, share status. So working from home, and what am I going to do here? I'm going to click the button. Okay, good. Now let's just, I think you can actually, that is very clever what they've done here. At some point I'm going to have a look underneath this and see what's going on. So 3 days, and I'm going to submit it. I don't know whether or not it's going to ask me. Thanks for sharing your status. Who do you want to? That's really, really mysterious. That shouldn't have worked. This is actually a bit bizarre because this is actually, I'm going to have to block this out because this shouldn't have worked. Yeah. So we've got a bit of an authentication things going on here, but there's no way these people are actually in my organization. So, but you can share it to your team. So I'll have to block those out. I'm not too concerned about that. So I'm going to skip this. Okay, and that's good. So we're kind of done on that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move back to the instructions because the next part of this is import and set up the notification flow. Okay, so this the app uses the flow to send notifications to end users whenever there is a new company update. So, well, we're just going to give it a go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, I'm going to go to Delve, I'm going to go back from Delve, then I'm in Office, then I'm going to go to Power Automate here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to My Flows, and I'm going to go to Import a Flow. And then it's going to ask me the flow to import, and I'm just going to have to I have to kill a few tabs here soon. Upload that. I think that will be news notification, and click update on there. Good. So that's fine. So notify users, etc., etc. So this says select during import. So you do actually have to do this as you go through. So just go to OK on that. News notification. So I have to do PowerApps Notification Center. So I need to do. I need to go to create new on this one here. So I will need to. I'm expecting to have to create one. So new connection, PowerApps. There we are, PowerApps notification, and click OK on that. Oh, and it's actually asked for the target application, the URL or ID shown under the app details tab. So what they're looking for here, and I just need to be really careful about that. I think that what we're looking for here is got to be this one here. So I'm going to need to go to details, go down there, and then is it the URL they need? I'm just going to check what they actually need, or ID. Oh, so they say you can use a URL or ID. Well, I'm actually going to use the ID. I don't think that it doesn't make any sense to use the URL to me anyway. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go create on there. So it seems to be happy there, which means I can go back to the flow and then refresh the list and then click on PowerApps notification, then click save, and then we're good. Azure AD connection, I can click create new on there. I was a little bit surprised. Well, of course, this is because I'm in my new tenant, so I'll go create new, which actually will just take me here to here. So I need to put search to Azure AD. Okay, there's Azure AD there. Click the plus on that and then create. Okay, wasn't expecting that. But I'll just go in here and grab my email address. So where is it? I think something popped up, and then so I'm just going to go there and hit the plus and create, and then it's going to ask me to do this again. So there, .com, and make sure my address is correct, and then click next. So now I may get the password wrong first time, you never know, and I'll just accept consent on behalf of your organization, and then I'm going to go onto there. That's fine, and then I will jump back. Not sure, can't sign in, don't like the sound of that. Fix connection. Okay, I am just gonna wing it anyway. It may be that I did the password ring correctly first time around. It felt like I might have done. In fact, look at that. I've got two of them. Bit mysterious. So I'm going to go back down here. In fact, I have created two of them, but I'm not going to be too concerned about it. In fact, what I'll do is just because I'll delete that one here. It's not used by anything. and that's fine. Go on to here. I'm going to refresh the list here. I've just got one of them there. Click that one, click save, and then we're nearly there. Come on, we can do this. We're going on to the SharePoint one. We'll click that, click save, and then I'm now going to import that. So I'm not really expecting it to take very long. I don't even know if there's very much setup required here. So it's saying that it's actually brought it all in which case I can go open flow. So when a news item is posted, get the ad. Well, let's just check that. When a news item is posted, site address, list name. Honestly, I don't know how they managed to do this. So let's just check that that in fact this won't work. Just because we will need to do the setup on this. So I'm going to drag this and move it across. So I've got my instructions here. Now this is interesting because I don't have to do I'm not have to do the Bing Maps thing here, which could be that they've actually taken this out since it was first created. I don't know. So yeah, in fact, that was because it was probably used for something else. Okay, so add connections, which is fine. I've added those. We've added all those bits and pieces in. That's them adding the connection. We did that. To get the ID, well, we've gone to the ID. We've got the details. And this is interesting. Copy the app ID. In fact, the app ID is down there, which is fine. And then we went to the setup, we've gone through all that, and then edit the news notification flow and open the card. Yeah, and this is the bit that I was expecting to make a change to. So what I'm going to do is going to go to edit the flow here, because obviously the site address is not the one that we're using. So this is the one that we actually want. And the list name, we can hit the X on that, and then I'll need to just check which one we're doing. It's the CL company news. So company news, which is fine. Get the admin config settings. So these are the original ones when someone created it, and then grab the list name there. And I'm just going to jump onto there, and it's the config admin setup. So I will go onto there, which is great. Initialize variable, just need to check that it says that there's nothing untoward in there. Initialize the variable. Now I'm a little bit concerned about this because it's got no variable there. It may be that it actually uses it later on. So setup, yeah, okay, fine. It might be okay, but we'll just need to verify that it's actually going to be okay. It looks like the way in which they've set it up, it's actually fine. So what we can do on that is we can now click save on that. So what is the purpose of this then? Looking at this, it looks like when some company news comes in, it will actually notify directly on the app straight away, which actually is kind of relevant. So let's come off that. Good. So it's obviously not run yet, but we're just going to I will experiment with that briefly because I just think it's worth having a crack at. So I just want to make sure that I'm just going to spend a moment and clean up my desktop. So as it turns out, it sends the email to nobody at all, and that's because in the all company group there is literally no one in there. So if I was to kind of just add members to that, and there aren't that many to choose from, and add those people in, then go select on there, then that means I've got those in that group, and that should mean that I'm just going to click refresh on there, that I can go back to the flow and then do, and I should be able to go back and rerun the flow. So in fact, I need to go to, I think I'll need to do, I'll need to click on this and I'll resubmit this flow, and then you should find that this time round we'll actually get 3 emails that get sent out. So here we are, you can see them. It's taken a little tiny bit longer to run this time round, so we should see on that we've got the email there, and you can actually see there's an attempt to send an email to different people there. Now what we'll find is it wouldn't, it doesn't, for whatever reason, it doesn't send it properly. But it's not so much that it doesn't send it; it's more the fact that the email, it's more the fact that the email doesn't get received correctly. So, okay. So we'll go back to the instructions here, and what we need to do now is we need to look at, there's a Power BI element to monitoring the office's absences. So earlier on, what we did was we indicated that we were off for a certain period of time, and so what we can do is we can Power BI the results of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go on to I've logged in here in Edge as user 1. I think it's worth I'm just going to type in Power and just see whether I'm all licensed up and shared up and so on with all the different things. The reality is that, and well, this is the reality of these sorts of things. So there's my user 1, which is great. I don't know if I've shared it correctly with this user. I'm almost certain I have. User 1 in theory is actually an admin user anyway. So you can actually see Crisis Communications admin. What you can't see is that you can't see the other app. So I'm just going to see if yeah, you can see it's not correctly shared. So what I'm going to do is the main app hasn't been shared with them properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to that app. So I'm just finding it on the screen here. So I need to go onto the app itself, into PowerApps, onto the communication app there, go onto there, share it, and I thought I'd put everyone in data spinners. Wonderful. So I'm just going to type in user 1 because I know that will definitely share it. And see, the other way of doing it, I thought all company. No. See, that's the thing, is that you're almost better off, and there's also that GRP thing that we did, that would put them in, but they're theoretically the admin team. So in this case, I mean, we could set up a group and all those sorts of things. I'm just going to type in user 1, and I'm going to type in user 2 as well, and then that's just that's a kind of belt and brace. It's not the right way of sharing these things, by the way. Active Directory groups are the right way of sharing your apps. And so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to revert to this, and we should find that it's now actually shared, and then we can start using it. So here it comes. Yep, there it is. So we've got the Crisis Communication app there, and we're going to click play on that. So I'm going to log in as user 1, which is great, because what I want to do is I want to make sure I've got a little bit of data to play with. So here we go. I'll just go down to the bottom of that, and I'll need to allow these different bits and pieces. Okay, click allow on that. I'll do the OK there. And so it's nearly ready, and I can do a share status thing, and on this one I'm going to say I'm going to be okay, well, let's do an out of office on this particular one, and we'll just do some slightly different dates. So we'll go from there to there. Oops, I'm not actually familiar with this. Okay, we've got 5 days there. We're going to click submit. Now at least we've got 2 lines of data. So now we're actually approaching the final part of the installing the bits and pieces in relation to this. So, and it's actually the Power BI report. Now, one thing I will mention is if you go to SharePoint, as I did, and I'll make sure that we get to, I'm going to go to the crisis information, which is our site that we would have created. And then I'm also going to go up to the, I'm also going to go up to the site contents here, which will appear any second now. And we're going to click on there, and then I'm going to go to site contents, and I'm going to call up the list, because there's one particular list. It's the CL employee status, and you can see they've got 20 lines because I've basically popped 20 lines in there. So I'm going to just go into that list now. So I'm going to go onto the settings of that list, and I want to make sure that sort of appears on the main screen. So list name, I think list name, description, display on the quick launch. This should appear on the left hand side as a result of this, which is kind of handy. But the other thing I'm going to show you is that if we go to the employee status, and you won't necessarily see this straight away, and that's because you're just going to see the title. And so all you need to go is to edit current view. It's just that if it can be nice to actually see these things, and all you need to do is to make sure that you tick all of the things that you need. So it's present status, date, latitude, longitude, notes, and so on. So I'm going to cancel that, because what we're going to do now is we're going to do the Power BI report. So I'm just going to share my the folder with the information in. So this is my this is the report itself, and I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to get Power BI to fire up. It normally takes, to be fair, probably about 15-20 seconds for it to load up. So the objective of this next part is to connect the Power BI report with our SharePoint list. It isn't particularly complicated what we need to do. So we're just going to get on with it. So I've got an older version of Power BI Desktop, but in actual fact, you can actually get away with, well, it says I've got an older version. You may get this error as well, because I actually downloaded it today. So you may find that you get this error pop up, but it's going to be okay, don't worry. So I've now got Power BI that's popped up on my screen, and what I need to do is, as I say, I need to connect it up to the I need to connect it up to my SharePoint list. So away it goes. It's got some hard-coded data in there already, so it's going to fire up, but not necessarily for the right reasons. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you that what we need to do is we need to go edit queries, and I don't know if you notice it says it's connected to something called CL employee status, and in actual fact the CL employee status is the SharePoint list that we're trying to connect to. So if I go to source on that now, I'm going to go to advanced editors because it's actually easier to view in advanced editors. You may need to go to view, and on the formula bar that can be helpful, but you can get an advanced editor there. So there's different ways in which you can get there. I'm going to get an advanced editor in here, and all we're going to do is to change the table that we're going to go into here, and also we're going to change the name of the list that we're going to get to, because they've all got GUIDs. Everything is GUIDs here. So what I'm going to do is need to go onto the web to grab the details that I need. So I'm going to jump on there. So on the SharePoint site, we need to specifically just go all the way up to crisis information, but no further. So then we're going to jump back, and what we're going to do here is we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it in there. So the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to click done, and it won't work properly, but don't worry, we'll get there. So now what I'm going to do is do edit credentials, and then it's going to say, well, what do you want to do? I don't want to do anonymous. I'm going to go Microsoft account. You're not signed in. This is true. I'm going to click sign in, and it'll either offer me my account, or which it hasn't. I'll go use another account. So it's going to be Rory at covid19app.onmicrosoft.com. I'll click next on there and put in my password. Normal Office 365 authentication. And then what we'll find is that only the first part of our process will actually work properly. So we'll go connect on that, and it'll be upset at a slightly different stage. So you can see it's actually doing things, but the reason it can't go all the way through the process is because we navigate, there's a hard-coded navigation in here. So if we go to source here, then what we'll see is a list of all of the tables that are in our SharePoint site. So you can see that there's a range of tables there. And in actual fact, the one we want is the CL employment status. So I can actually click on there, grab that there, go up to Advanced Editor, and I can double click on, actually need to get rid of it here, and here, and here as well. So in actual fact, this bit here is just a renaming process. So in actual fact, you could call it whatever you want it, so long as it's written in the same way in this part here. But actual fact, if you just do them all the same, then it's absolutely fine. So I'm going to click done on that. So there we are. We've got all of our information, and there's some latitude and longitude there. And so I can do close and apply to that. And what we'll see is some new information come into there. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to fire this up to Power BI. Make sure, I don't know, yeah, I should be logged in correctly. Now what you'll find is that I don't actually have a Power BI license as yet, but you can actually see that we've now got more information than we had before, and you can actually see they've done a pretty good job here actually. So it tells us what the number of people that are out of office and that are actually working from home and so on. So obviously you can choose to upgrade and update this as you see fit. Just see what the tooltips are on this. So it's got present status out of office. Now if this was me, I would kind of go onto this here, and I would probably see if I could soup it up to. Now, in fact, funny enough, the thing that we don't have here is actually the name of the employee, which doesn't make a lot of sense. In fact, title is actually the name of the employee. So if I go onto title onto the tooltips here, then that should mean that in here we'll actually get to see the name of the user, which is the employee that we're actually interested in. So that's quite nice. And you know, you could do all sorts of things here. I could get really carried away. Maybe I could do a table and pop an email to them if I wanted to. That would be interesting. Maybe we should do that. In fact, I am going to do that, you know, because I was doing something along these lines earlier on. So what I can do on that is I can actually pop a little table in there, drag it down. In fact, don't do that. No, it doesn't want to drag a table down. So pop a table in there, go drag it down here, and then I am just going to go on this bit where it says title. I'm actually going to create a new something in here. I'm going to do a new column, there we are, new column, and I'm going to call it mail to. And that would mean that we could actually theoretically communicate. And there's loads of ways in which you could do this, but I was working on this earlier on. So pregnant pause here, unfortunately. The vast computing required to actually do a calculated column. In fact, I'm better off in this view here, and I can call this thing which says column. Okay, never mind. It's getting a little bit upset with me, and to be fair, I've probably asked a little bit too much of it. So let's leave that little piece there, a bit overcomplicated anyway. So we've got a Power BI report, but we haven't actually published it anywhere. So the next thing that you're going to want to do with any Power BI report is you're going to want to publish it. So I'm going to save the changes. That's what you always have to do on a Power BI report. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish it up to the web. Okay. So it's getting a bit upset with me that it thinks it's open twice. In fact, I'm going to do file save as. I'm going to call it. Let's call it present status update new. Call it something like that. It just means that I can actually save it and publish it up to the cloud. So I'm going to go publish, and what I'm going to do is, yeah, I can see that it's actually it's logged in, not correctly logged in here for me. So I need to switch the account, and I need to go Rory at COVID-19app.com. tenant.onmicrosoft.com, and I need to sign in there. It'll ask me to do the usual Office 365 authentication, so pop that in there. And then that means that we can actually publish this up as we'd hoped to before. Yeah, I'm not surprised here. I've never used this at all. So it says, do you want to sign up for Power BI? And then on my screen elsewhere, in fact, it's trying to sign me up on the wrong account here. But we'll see if it. I'll just click sign up and see what happens. So I'm sort of signing in on another account here. So I'm on another screen, believe it or not, and I'm only 50-50 as to whether or not this is going to work. But in order for me to be able to actually publish, I had to have a Power BI license. So I'm just going to do start on this. Now I'm kind of should be okay. Effectively, it's given me a trial for Power BI. So hopefully it's now saying sign in. So I'm going to have to sign in again. Oops, Rory at covid19.onmicrosoft.com. Now, if this doesn't work, then I will, what I'll do is I'll go on to the admin center and we'll actually give it a proper Power BI license, and then everything will be happy. So, in fact, what I'm going to do here is I am going to go on to incognito, and then I'm going to go office.com, and I'm going to type in, go to all apps, there we are, all apps. Now everything's happening a little bit quickly here. I've got Power BI here. Now this is me signing into Power BI. Now this may ask me for the to sign up with Power BI. I'm not too sure how it's going to actually operate this time round. It's such a new user, etc., etc. Yes, I do actually have Power BI, so it's a little bit odd that. So look at workspaces here. Now this would suggest that I'm going to jump in here, and the reason I'm going to jump in is because this may trigger need in Pro. So I'm going to basically say try Pro for free, start trial, and then close that. And then what that should mean is that when we go back to the Power BI here, I'm going to click publish, and then it should be happy with me finally. But I think these kind of, I'm going to call them teething problems, are important ones for us to just see that they're actually kind of normal and they're solvable and so on. I'm beginning to think I shouldn't have done such a long password. Well, as you can actually see, that it's actually only offering me my workspace. So this is not perfect. It's probably just a timing thing, given that only about 10 seconds ago I actually got a Power BI Pro license. In this case, I'm just going to go to... this is not ideal, to be honest. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try and publish it again, because I think that it will get... well, it should get there in the end. It's a little bit disappointing, because in theory, what you would want to do is you would want to publish it into the same space as your administration and so on. So I'm going to hit publish on there and publish. I'm going to select my workspace. It's not where I would be recommending that you put things, but it'll actually work as far as we're concerned. And that will mean that we've actually got a Power BI report living in the cloud. As I say, this would not be the normal place to put your reports. This is just, literally for your own personal reports. So here I am. I'm in my workspace now. I can refresh this, and let's just check that the report has gone up correctly. So we can go to reports, and we can click on this new the report that we just brought in. Just bear in mind that this refresh thing here is not a full refresh. And you can, and the sort of thing that you would want to do is you would want to go to view related, and you would want to go to the schedule refresh. Then you would want to go to edit credentials on here. You just need to do a sign in on Windows. In fact, it's OAuth 2. I'll just put organization on this and then click sign in. So once you are signed in, you'll need to turn the scheduled refresh on. I've just put 2 times a day in here, but you can do up to 8 times a day. Then you'll need to click apply, and then that's you kind of completed on that part of the process. So now what we need to do is to navigate over to Teams. We need to go down to apps here, and we'll need to go and upload a custom app. That's the bit where we upload for data spinners. That's fine. And we'll just go and find that app. Now I put it in a very odd location, so I just need to find that. Okay, so just grab here. I just had a few issues with just actually finding it, so just be careful. Everything seems to be called crisis communication here, so I'm going to pop open on that, and it's going to add that to add that in here. So there we have our crisis communication. I think the icon will come in later on. Just refer back to the instructions. So we'll need to upload the file. That's great. And then we navigate to the Teams Admin Center. So off to the Teams Admin Center. And I've lost the instructions, so I'm just going to jump back. So that's nice. Teams Admin Center. I'm just going to right click, open it in new tab. And then we're going to go to Teams Apps, and then we go to Set Up Policies. And the idea with this is we're actually going to make sure that one of the apps actually just goes in there automatically. So as you can see, there's quite a few places to go here. So we're going off to Teams Apps and Set Up Policies here. And then we're going to just refer back here. Teams Apps, so a global org-wide setup. Okay, that's good. We're in there. Then we're going to go to Add Apps. And just check the permissioning on this. We should. And we're going to have to search for the crisis information app that we're actually looking for here. Global. There we are. We found it. And we can add that in there. We've added that in now. And just refer back to the instructions again. So search, and we've added it in, add, and then we can save that. And as you can see, that we've the bit at the bottom there is the setting up the crisis management team, which we've already done. So at this point, I can just click save on that. So we've added that in. Now, the concern I would have with this, obviously this is an organization-wide thing, is that you would need to be absolutely happy that your app is working perfectly and so on before you add this in this particular way. And the idea with that is that once you're in your actual teams, that we should find that that the our new communications app becomes available to us. So we've come a very long way since the start of this quite a long session. We've created a Microsoft tenant. We brought in some flows and all the assets that have been provided to us. So we brought in a flow that created the Sharepoint lists. The Sharepoint list was used by the apps themselves, and then we brought in the main app for that the users would use, and also the administration app. We also created a Microsoft team, and we brought in tabs onto those teams, which included the administration element of it. but also it includes the Power BI report, and you can just tab through those. I think if I was going to work on this, I'd probably add in I would add into this the main app itself that the users would use, which is this one here, and then click save. And then the other thing that I would do on this would be I would probably rename this tab, because it's quite straightforward to rename tabs, and I would probably just put ADM at the start so that it's a little bit clearer to see which one is which. Click save on that. That doesn't actually change anything about the app at all, and you can see this is the app that the users have got. You can see the company news, and so that means that now if we go into the communications app here, obviously these render every single time you run them, so we can go into the app. I'll go on to allow on that, and that will allow me to I can change the company news, for example. So I can go into company news, and I can add a new post, and we did this earlier on. So here is some news, 1, 2, 3. Here is some news, 1, 2, 3, and then I can press save on that. That's now added it into the feed. That means that if someone goes into the crisis communication app, they're going to get the very latest information that you want to provide to your organization. So if they go into company news, you can see something there. So there's an awful lot of tech that's involved in this. We've also got ways of pushing out that information to people, and that was via emails, which were triggered by flows and so on. So I hope you found this useful, and by all means, if there are any queries that you got, please let me know down below, and I'll do my best to either answer them or pass them on to the Microsoft team so that they can enhance the product further. So I'd like to make a big thank you to the organisations that made this possible, to Microsoft, who've given us the platform for putting this out there, to Schlumberger, who've given their IP so that this could be a possibility, the Power Addicts who did all the testing, and once again all the Microsoft employees that have put time into this. My name's Rory Neary of Data Spinners, and it's been my pleasure to introduce this to you. Thank you.